Well, hello there, it's me, Terry, and I want to start this video with a question. How much anxiety and fear do you walk around experiencing on a daily basis? Maybe you are a chronic worrier. Maybe you come from a long line of chronic worriers, which would mean that being stressed out and worrying about the worst thing happening could just be learned behavior. So, either way, today you are in the right place because in today's video, I'm going to be helping you understand your particular roots of fear and anxiety. And I'm going to be sharing some steps that you can take to have more joy and less stress in your life. So, before we get started, if you're new to my channel, please introduce yourself in the comments below because we are a friendly lot. Make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell so that you get notified every time we roll out new videos, which is Tuesdays, and I have interview videos that come out on Thursday. You don't want to miss a thing. So, if you don't know me, because you're new here, my name is Terri Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and the author of Boundary Boss, which you can get at boundarybossbook.com. And I love all the comments that you guys leave for me, and I highlight them in every video. So today I'm highlighting tips 9 on the episode on effective communication. And they said, great advice, Terry, as always. I found this really helpful. Would love more videos on effective communication in relationships as I have a tendency to overcomplicate things and my message then gets lost. I also have difficulty expressing my needs and sometimes even identifying my needs and whether they're valid or reasonable. So that is amazing. I will do more on that. And if you guys, whatever it is that you want me to do more videos on, drop it in the comments because really I do this for you. So I want to create what it is that you want and what it is that you need. So now let's move on to today's content. All right, so what is anxiety? This is persistence. It's a persistent worry or fear, like something bad is happening or something bad is going to happen. Now, in light of the pandemic, in light of many of us being locked down, and it's still going on in some ways, this has been amplified for a lot of my therapy clients and people in my groups and my courses, where it used to be, oh, the fear was quote unquote just in your mind. But when you live through a pandemic, there's lots of good reasons to be afraid. So I feel like people are confused about whether their anxiety, whether their fear-based thinking is healthy because it's keeping them safe, or whether it's too much. So let's move into what is important about your own anxiety. What are things that you can do? So part of it is you have to understand your own anxiety. Why do you relate to things the way that you do? So in the guide, which you can get at terricole.com/guide, I'm giving you a bunch of questions that you can answer to start to get more clarity on your specific anxiety blueprint. There's a couple of things that you can write. I'm giving you a few journal prompts, but it's really understanding what you saw growing up. And we can look at them right now quickly. Did you have a parent, an adult in your life who was a worrier, who always thought the worst thing was going to happen, was worried about you all the time, instilled fear in you? That can be something that gets handed down, right? If you're a trauma survivor, this can create more anxiety, right? For you, does caring for someone else mean chronically worrying about them? Because from an intellectual, right, point of view, from a psychological point of view, we can all agree that incessant worrying about things that have not happened yet is not helpful. It doesn't change what's going to happen. Being prepared can change what's going to happen. Having a plan in place, if you're somewhere with your family and somebody gets lost, like everyone knows, go to the police station in that town, or whatever it is. There's ways that we can productively manage our anxiety. But worrying, when you think about what it really is, it is just catastrophically projecting into the future. And I've had so many clients with, and I mean, worrying can almost border on, obsessive compulsive disorder in some people. And it's like so many clients have said, well, it makes me feel like I'm doing something. And I'm like, right, but you're not doing what you think you're doing. That is an illusion that the worrying is going to impact what happens. But what you are doing is releasing a ton of cortisol into your system, is releasing adrenaline into your system, all of these stress hormones that are so bad for us in so many ways. So I'll be curious to see what you discover when you answer the questions in your downloaded fear and anxiety blueprint, which again is in the guide, terricole.com/guide. All right, there's things that it's really helpful to rule out. As a psychotherapist, I have a very extensive intake form that people fill out. And in that, I ask them questions about what they eat, what they drink, how much they sleep. Do you do, illegal drugs? Do you smoke a lot of weed? Do you drink a lot of alcohol? All of these things can impact, right? So if I had a client who came in presenting with some kind of an anxiety disorder, but then I read their intake, and in the intake they say they drink, 2 pots of caffeinated coffee a day. Do I think they have an anxiety disorder? Well, I don't know, but I'm positive that 2 pots of caffeinated coffee a day is not helping an anxiety disorder. So we start ruling things out. So I ask that client to start cutting down on what they're drinking caffeine and then eventually get rid of it altogether. And then we can see, did the person's symptoms, rapid heartbeat, sweating, feeling dizzy, all of the symptoms of having anxiety, did they lessen when they stopped drinking so much friggin' caffeine? And I have to say, a lot of times, especially for people who really drank a lot of caffeine, it makes a tremendous difference. Really, and the thought is, alcohol can really amplify anxiety for a bunch of reasons. But one is that alcohol is this quick, right? It in the short run will make you feel more relaxed. But in the long run, it really does add to anxiety, not to mention makes you dehydrated if you're not, making up for drinking by doing a lot of hydrating. Dehydration itself can mimic these symptoms of an anxiety disorder. So we have to be mindful. And with alcohol, again, it's a quick fix. But in the long run, if you do experience anxiety or fearful thoughts on a daily basis, that is not helping you. So again, I invite you to start ruling things out by slowing down. Maybe just don't drink for a month. A lot of people were doing, dry January or whatever, but do your own and see if you go 14 days with no alcohol. Does that change how you wake up feeling? And I really think it will if you are drinking daily. Some people think they're only drinking 1 drink a day, and for some people that's perfectly fine. But we can't know that. If you're experiencing anxiety, we can't know that until we rule out anxiety as we rule out alcohol as one of like a causal factors. And it's the same thing with drugs. It's the same thing because we can't say, right? And I'm not talking about drugs that are prescribed to you from a psychiatrist or an MD. I'm talking about taking drugs to numb, to self-soothe, taking drugs that are not prescribed to you, and even ones that are prescribed to you. Sometimes you really have to question, like, do I need this? Is this the right thing for me? I mean, and of course, you would do all of that with a professional, with your doctor, but have the conversation. I always say to my clients, listen, if you've been on these drugs for a long time, it could be helpful to revisit how you're feeling. If you're on an antidepressant, is it still working? Or is your mood still lifted from that experience or not? Okay, another thing that can cause anxiety is not eating enough, having low blood sugar. That makes you tense and nervous and irritable. So you want to make sure that you're mindfully fueling your body throughout the day, which doesn't mean you have to eat a lot. It just means for some people, especially if you suffer from low blood sugar, that you have to be aware to not allow yourself to get to that place. My husband suffers from this, and if he gets too hungry, I can see he's physically, his face will be white, his hands will start shaking a little bit, and I'm like, hi, this is totally avoidable. Put almonds in the car or in your pocket and just eat a few, drink some water until you can get some real sustenance. But it's something to be mindful of. Another thing that creates anxiety is not getting enough sleep. And of course, we know all of these things, but only you know how much sleep you're actually getting, right? Only you know if this could be impacting you. But if you are getting 6 hours or less a night, for most people, that isn't enough. Doctors recommend getting 7 or 8 hours a night as like the optimal amount of sleep. And we're also talking about quality sleep, right? What does quality sleep look like? You're not waking up multiple times in the night, creating some kind of a wind down ritual so that you get off your devices, get off your computer when you're sleeping. I always wear an eye mask because I'm super sensitive to light and sound. I always wear earplugs, even though I live in the country and it's not noisy here. But if you are a highly sensitive person, you might be really impacted. My sleep is just demolished. If I sleep somewhere and I forget my eye mask and the room is very light, I can barely sleep at all. So it's something that being mindful of what you need to get a good night's sleep. Super helpful. Also, be aware. If you are taking Ambien or something like that for sleep, those things can be habit causing. And I think it's really important to look at what are the natural ways that you can strengthen your sleep hygiene, so to speak, rather than just taking a pill. And again, if you have really bad insomnia and your doctor thinks that's what you should be doing, I'm not saying don't. I'm saying look into other things because you need to sleep and you don't want to be on Ambien forever, right? If that's what it is, or Lunesta, or whatever the drug is. Another idea comes from Dr. Daniel Amen, who is a friend of mine who's actually been on this show before. He's so great. And he talks about taking a fish oil supplement. Again, don't take any supplements or anything that I say in this video without talking to your doctor first, please. But I really love Dr. Amen's work, and he is such a champion to lessen anxiety. So he talks about omega-3 fatty acids as something that is associated with lessening your levels of anxiety and depression. And he also talks about GABA, the GABA. This is shown to promote relaxation by increasing calming, focused brain waves, while also reducing brain waves that are associated with worry, which I think is really, really interesting. So I will drop a link in the show notes where you can read this from Dr. Daniel Amen himself. And he also talks about magnesium, which I absolutely take, and I take omega-3 as well. And I'm looking into GABA right now myself because I'm interested in what can we do to support our nervous system during the past 2 years, which have been pretty nerve-wracking for most of us. Even if you've managed it well, the amount of bandwidth that we've had to take out of our lives, out of doing other things to manage it well, is something that we need to replenish ourselves throughout this process. And that is exactly what we're talking about. Another thing that can create anxiety is just sitting in the same place, just being on the computer, just not moving your body. So listen, we've all read everything about how exercise is so great for us. If you are able, I just want to invite you to move your body. Get up at least every hour, stretch, roll your neck a little bit, maybe go for a 5-minute walk. You can start incorporating really small things because listen, transformation is really made from these small steps. And it really does seem like if I'm going to change something, it has to be so huge. I have to change everything. Everything I'm doing is wrong. No, even if everything you're doing, quote unquote, is adding to your anxiety, I will invite you to change small things at a time. Just one thing. We just start with one thing because if you start to feel better from doing that one thing, it gives you the motivation to be like, oh, okay, now I can move on to the next thing. It's worth moving on to the next thing. Just slow and steady wins the race when we are talking about actual transformation, because when you think about change, right, change is something that is temporary much of the time. Right? You can change and become, say, take care of your body if you're able and you're physically well and you're physically fit. And then you can write a book and not move for 1.5 years and get out of shape, right? That can happen. So that's change. Transformation is where we make these small, steady changes. And then we build on those changes. And then the transformation itself means that we have done a foundational shift in some way so that we can almost never go back to the way that it was before, right? Because it's almost like transformation means that it's like you're living a bigger life in some way, and you would never be able to fit in that little teeny box that you used to live in. But making these changes requires present moment consciousness, your attention, and your intention, right? It's not just, I have this experience with anxiety, that's a drag, right? We want it to be so much more than that. There are so many things that you can do for yourself, right? It's not hard to create a bedtime ritual. You can do that. Even if you just start by getting off your devices 2 hours before you're going to sleep. That is a major start. Making sure you don't have any electric plugged in things that have that blue light or the green light in your room, because those lights disrupt sleep, even if your eyes are closed, especially if you're a sensitive person. So think about small things that you can do to make the change. And if you are a worrier, and of course in my therapeutic practice, I've had many people who identify as worriers, I'll ask you to do what I just call a journaling brain dump. So before you're winding down to do your bedtime routine of becoming calm and mellow, having maybe a cup of chamomile tea, not watching super stressful things before you're trying to go to bed, I ask you could do it for 1 page. Just do a brain dump of what is on your mind, what is happening. Because if we can put it from our mind onto paper, we're so much less likely to be ruminating about it when we're trying to go to sleep. So that is a bunch of things. And last but not least, listen, if your anxiety is at a 9 for 3-4 months in a row, there's something else, right? If you try these natural things, but it doesn't help, this is when we need to involve a professional. So go see your doctor to talk about it. You can, maybe you just need talk therapy. And you can get a therapist, and now everyone is doing it virtually. And I'm actually proud to be associated with BetterHelp. So if you're interested in looking for a virtual therapist to talk all this out with, you can go to terricole.com/BetterHelp. And all the information that you need is there. Okay, I hope that this was helpful to you. I really want to hear what you have to say about it. What did you find, right? So the first thing you're going to do is become more mindful of what are the things that are making you anxious. Then you're going to move into doing the blueprint questions that I'm providing for you in the guide, which is terricole.com/guide. And then we're going to do a little bit deeper dive, and we're doing an anxiety inventory. So you've got your blueprint and you've got your inventory. And I promise you, when you download this guide, this will help reveal what is at the root of you being anxious, at least the behavioral stuff. So I hope this was helpful. If it was, please share it with the people in your life. Thank you for spending time with me today. I so appreciate you. And as always, take care of you.